CPCC-BC4013, prepare and evaluate tender documents. Assessment 2, parts 1 and 2. There is a bit of work in this. It looks to be incredibly simple, but in actual fact, if you've done good preparation in assessment 1, assessment 2 will be considerably easier. So having said that, the course commences on the 16th, and so of gee whiz, October. All right, so what we need to do, first of all, I think I'll just show you through a couple of things on the course and that I've actually been working on the last few weeks. Okay, so here we have introduction, unit commencement 16th of 10th, and unit completion 27th of the 11th, 2023. So this gives you about 7 weeks, notwithstanding that I've actually had most of the first section here, okay, where we're actually talking about research material here, here, and here, open for most of that time. Now, a few students have actually decided that they would have a go at this, and that's quite fine. I don't have any issues with that at all. Being a new unit, what I'm more interested in is, does it work? Do you actually follow it? And all those types of situation. So behind the scenes, my colleague Robin Rudd put a lot of this together, and then the job is to put it actually into a learn shell, which we have. So I'm assuming that most of you have actually read this about the applications. There's also an online resource over here, course overview, and this video will actually be not in this section, but will be actually in section 2 at the very top. Now I can tell you that quite a few people have actually watched the video, and current up to now runs for 54 minutes and 33 seconds, and there have been 30 views, okay, which is pleasing. It means that people are interested in the unit. Formerly, I taught this unit in a much more simplistic fashion, and the requirements today are much greater than what we actually have upon us today, especially in the area of builders going bankrupt, agreements lapsing, and all sorts of stuff. And there are so many factors involved in here, but one of the key things that industry is interested in is people knowing how to prepare and evaluate tender documentation. Okay, so this is legal stuff. Anything that you sign and put your signature to means you are bound by that contract. So therefore, you would be extremely smart if you were to actually double check that contract and make sure, and even to the point that you would actually have legal advice. I am going to include a 15 or 16 minute session by a lawyer, and within that, it's actually from an estimating point of view, but within that, the lawyer is actually talking about the dumb stuff that some people do and sign contracts when they don't really understand what they're signing. And so that will be part of it, because at the end of the day, if you're in this predicament where you're working for somebody and you're working on tender documents, actually getting stuff right is really, really important. Okay, so currently you can see down here that topic 5, assessment 1, assessment 2 is not actually published to students. And that's basically because I haven't actually completed everything. I'm still waiting on a couple of cross checks. So first of all, when we get to topic 4, click on here. Right down the very bottom is the video. Okay, assessment 2, parts 1 and 2. Now, within here is actually your document about what you actually have to do in part 2 and part 1. And so you can actually see that. And so number 1, what I've already got it open, so I'm just going to actually open up what is actually called an ASI. Now, ASI is just simply the legal document that TAFE actually complete to actually make this a course. So you can see the normal preamble tells you that this qualification and code ties in with building and construction site manager, building certificate for and building project support for the estimator. So it's not a building as the building side, it's actually in the site management and estimating side. All right, overview of assessment. I'm going to leave you to read that. You've already seen this in section 1, but like most people, you will just skim over that, and I totally understand that, but on a contractual point of view, it is worthwhile reading. Academic misconduct, plagiarism or cheating. You must ensure that your work you submit is your own. And minor breaches, I pull people up if it's a serious or a deliberate offence, like I had in 5 students copied the same work and submitted it all at the same time. Now, if that's ever not a world's Nobel Prize for dumbness, I don't know what is. 5 of them in a row, and I'm going like, seriously? Deal yourself better with that. Okay, know to have high amounts of integrity, because everything about being involved in the building industry is having people who are squeaky clean and not those who are actually trying to actually take mileage out of something. All right, so assessment 2, what is it about? So submit tender documentation. So all the preparation stuff you did in section or assessment 1 has some bearing on this, but then we start to put legs on that. So let's have a look. We need to check the accuracy of the information collected for the tender preparation, correspond with your organisational processes and procedures, select contracts. Now, I have actually placed one contract under commercial and one under residential. Okay, and I'll show you where that is and the information. And within that, we also have the drawings and the information that you need to actually get out of those resources that we put together for you. So here it is, point 1, the information collected in the tender document submission is accurate against the relevant document where the information is based on. So before you actually tick either yes or no, you need to double check. Okay, now this is actually a way of a principal stitching you up if you're lazy. Okay, so if you say yes, it's accurate, and then you actually, and your tender is accepted and you've missed half it, doesn't matter. You have to actually supply that. And over 50 years of building that I've been involved in, time and time again, you hear of that sort of stuff. Now, that wasn't the side that I was involved in. I was involved in making the project. But the reality is, I've also actually worked on projects where the actual principal has applied. For example, there was a group called Taminga Joinery. Pike Industries were the actual contractor building their structure, and basically they didn't have enough money to actually build what they were doing, and so 3/4 of the way through the project, it actually, they fell into bankruptcy, and all sorts of stuff flew out of the place, and that was not a good outcome. And so this is why it's within your best interest to ensure that there's financial liquidity in the contractors who are working, and that's very difficult to prove. Okay, you might have a letter of credit from a bank, but if behind the scenes you're $4.5 million in debt, like Quattro only 4 days ago went through, it doesn't matter how much a letter of credit says in your bank, it's actually what is happening day to day. All right, so point one, information. Point two, the information collated corresponds with the selected contracts. And contracts look all the same. So it's very easy to mix and match. And it will not surprise me if someone does that, because you're looking at a contract and it's quite difficult to go through. Finally, three, okay, the information collated in the tender document submission corresponds with organizational processes and procedures. So that is the AS code 4000, which is regarding about everything to do with contracts. So then part two, what we have to do, and this is it, there's nothing else under here, is you are required to draft an email to submit the following to the appropriate personnel. Tender administrator or the client organization, draft an email using a business email format, including specific and direct subject line, project and tender reference number. So you need to have that. Body text using format language. Look at the examples found on the internet or obtained from industry as a reference. Signature, you need to actually sign each page. Once you've drafted this email, use your snipping tool to do a screen capture of this email and paste it within this document below. Attach your tender documentation as a zip file. Take your folder structure you created in Assessment 5 Part 1. Include the correct project you are tendering for. See, Robin's actually building you to that point to make sure that this is done right. That being either residential or commercial, and then zip it into a folder. If you don't zip it, it will not upload to Learn, it's too big. Submit the ASI document and the zip folder via the submission portal by the due date. And what I will add to that as the lecturer who's actually running the course for this year, as early as possible. Okay, a satisfactory pass will simulate that your tender documentation has been received by the tender administration for approval or endorsement. Okay, and in some ways you go, wow, how much do I have to do here? But the reality is this is absolutely critical. Minimizing this, so that's actually in there. Okay, over here is actually another PowerPoint which has all the learning files required for this area. So it is worth your while actually having a look at that. Now, topic 5 and questions 1, 2, and 3. So here it is here. Now, it's not published at the moment. It will be published probably in about a week's time. 6, answer the following questions on client acceptance forms. Locate and download the AS 4000-1997 from your library. Read the relevant clause before filling in the invitation to tender. The clause number must be included. That's question 1. Question 2, fill in your credentials, client information, project details. 3, save this contract as a supporting document to be prepared for the client or principal to complete on acceptance of the tender. Now, what you will have here is 4 things. And number 1 is this fellow here, invitation to tender. So we'll actually click on this, and down here, simple as email TAFE invitation letter master. So click on that, and I'm just going to save it. I've had this open so many times, it's just about cross-eyed. Okay, here we have it, invitation to tender. We would like you to invite you to submit a quote for the specified trade works on the below detailed project. Your job is to actually, number 1, put in the actual tender number, the client information, address, closing date. Please submit your quotation on or before 2 p.m. via email, fax, or hard copy. And already I've emphasized so strongly that if you are invited to put a tender in and it's the due date is 2 o'clock, your probably best option is to set yourself up 4 hours before that, have everything ready, and then you can put it in. Okay, 3 o'clock, your tender's not accepted. All right, now the other thing is we've got it all already actually work out to do a site visit, and so you need to actually insert the date for that site visit. Make sure it's before this date. Now, any tender queries to the following person, okay, lecturer, yourself. You are the head contractor, so you need to put your name in and as a building name, okay. Don't put in the Bang 'em Up Building Company, okay. Think about what you would like to do in the future and what sort of name you would call yourself. Don't put in Alien Roofing, which is actually a real business name. I mean, the guy who thought that up must have been absolutely piddled at the time. All right, here's some key things regarding this invitation to tender. So you have been sent this, and your job is then to work out, well, can I actually, have I got the actual physical resources to be able to complete this tender in the time that they're asking? All right, so here we go. Head contractor, defects liability 52 weeks. Liquidated damages are to be announced per day. Okay, so that's something that's a bit scary. Tender documents might be just the drawing number for here. Don't worry about this one here. Name of the contractor, and under here is some tender conditions, just so that you get an idea. This is the sort of stuff that you're actually sticking your head in the crocodile's jaws and going, yep, I'm going to do this. And it talks about the program, insurance, tax invoices 25th of each month, which means you have to have enough liquidity to actually work on a project for 1 month before you can actually claim any money. And then after that 1 month, 14 days before you receive your money. Now, that's something that can actually throttle you straight away. And the advent of any day labor or variations, okay, you can actually put some information in about that. Also, the contractor's project manager. Now, the rest of this is really talking about variations, what we need to do about variation. Now, this is really interesting because also, as part of signing for this tender, you need to make sure that all OH&S and environmental requirements are documented in the tender documents. So, for example, another subject similar to this called minimized waste is actually covering some of those environmental aspects, which are quite difficult. Now, non-complying informal tenders, please provide a full confirming tender as outlined in the tender documentation with any alternatives which you are quite at liberty to suggest, noted as a proposed alternative. Okay, here's the safety and environmental policies, and prior to commencing the subcontract works, the subcontractor shall provide to the contractor a completed job safety JSA work method statement for approval. Often on building projects, you are also required to put in the name of every single person that works on their site, their license and details. And so this is a big deal. So this is step one. So this is not too bad. The areas that I've actually highlighted red are the things that I want you to actually complete out of this document. So nothing much more to say about that. Now, this is what you fill out after you've actually read in the AS 4000. Okay, so you need to actually have a look at that. And so if you want to actually find out what it says about head contractor, what it says about the drawing numbers, engineers, footings, all those components, you need to actually find out where you sit. Do you understand that fully? Because if you don't, you may actually do what one bright spark did. And the reason I'm including this in the course is he actually agreed to and signed a tender where he was physically responsible for all maintenance for 10 years. Now, no, you would think no one would be stupid enough to actually do that, but that's what he did. And so then he had to spend money to go to a lawyer. The lawyer took one look and said, well, this contract's null and void anyhow, because it's illegal to actually expect that. And so it was so poorly written that the judge threw it out. And so the guy who signed it walks away. In one hand, he's got a bill for the cost of a lawyer to get him out of jail. And the other hand, he's wiping the sweat off his brow because basically he had actually signed himself to, like, anything could happen in 10 years. So this is the thing where you need to be very clinical about what you agree to and what you don't agree to. And if you're not sure, your first port of call is a lawyer, not a mate, not a relative, but actually somebody who can legally back up what you need to be standing on so that your contract is valid and secure. And this is a big deal. And lots of people don't go down this track at all. Okay, so I'm just going to shut that one down. I think we've covered as much of that as you need to. If this takes more than a couple of hours, there's something wrong. Okay. In actual fact, if it does take more than a couple of hours, maybe you haven't actually had a look at the 4 PowerPoints and the original documentation for evaluate tender documents first. Make sure you do that. Okay, this is not the unit to smash out the assessment and not read. Okay, and we're having massive troubles with that currently in our classes. Okay, there are 2 contracts. There's the domestic building contract, and I guess what I should do is just minimize that for a second. And what we're going to do is just click up here again. Better for me to show you against the course. And then what you're going to have is your knowledge questions. And then you're going to have your submit tender documentations. So at the moment, there's a commercial project and there's also a residential project. Now, within the residential project, you have a plan set, you have a selection document. Okay, this is massive. It's unbelievable the amount of stuff in here. And you have the building certifies documentation. Now, within it are the MBA domestic building contract for houses. Okay. And then we've also got the commercial. So we'll look at this bit here first, just open the files. I'm not going to open them, but there they are there. Okay, so you just open them up and you start to work your way through this information. And the plan set, maybe I should open that. Plan set's a really nice little one. Okay, very simple. Okay, so we've got a domestic house here, and these are all the pages. This is this type of stuff. This originally was one of our lecturers' homes, and so he's kindly given us permission to actually have a look at this. This is the level of detail that you need to have behind your tender. So, for example, general notes, construction notes, roof construction, doors and windows, additional notes. These are all the plans. Okay, if one of these is missing, that can be a big deal. All right, there's also the client who signs the final plans. Weeks are a very well-known building group, and basically you can see the wind speed, bushfire bow, corrosion zone. It's up in the Adelaide Hills, so there's not much seawater up there. Um, Rainwater tanks. There's the actual house plan. Okay, here's the layout, so you can see easily. This is the level of detail that you need to pour over to make sure. Notice smooth trowel, concrete floor. Okay, uh, front section, elevations. Okay, right through here. Detail of the foundation, eave section, up in the Adelaide Hills has to be really top notch with regards to bushfire, pier heights, all the way through. And then you've got the actual flooring system, garage. This is that bit where you got to be like an engineer and make sure that you read every single part to make sure that you are covered. All right, so great little plan, okay? And you could just simply actually maybe put your plan number in as whatever it is here and actually go through there, or make up a fictitious plan number. That's fine, okay? It's not like you're going to open this up. Now, the other part we've actually got here, and this is quite unique as well. Okay, so this is actually the building certifier, and so this is an actual copy for you to view, and this is the type of stuff. So it goes to the City of Mitcham. There's the reference, so that's great. So probably you could use that sort of reference. You can see where the actual address is, and then through here are all the steps to make sure. So it's development plan consent, land division, building rules consent. You can see those two there in particular. There's a bit of a dialogue here all the way through that covers every part of the plan. Now, this is legal. This is legal, okay? So basically, we've purposely put this here, all right? You're not to copy it. You use it as a reference. That's all I want you to do. If it means you have to type something and you're not sure what those words are, just work your way through it. But site management looks like termite management, but you've got a whole heap of gear here. So the resources are really good, and took a bit of time to put that together. Now, this fellow here, selection document, is epic. And the reason I've actually included it was, number one, it's absolutely mad. It's 51 pages, and in here is the total work for My Style Selection Studio, and you can actually see the sort of level of detail that has to be behind the contract. Okay, and have a look. What sort of cladding? Okay, texture, acrylic render, what garage doors, all the way through. I'm not going to read this. We could have a video that lasts for 14 hours. It even has physical kitchen price, okay? And then it actually has layout plans just showing the kitchen. So Jag kitchens. More details. So Jason Atkinson and his wife Carly are the actual are the actual owners. And in here, you could just see where they've actually signed off. Okay. And in some of the contracts, both of them sign, and how that works together. Tiles. Oh, we only got another 30 pages to go. Can you see the level of detail? All right. And this is critical, because if you don't do this, people just expect that, well, that was included in the price. So this is relatively current, 2 or 3 years old, okay, and was actually built, and they've already sold this home and moved on to another one. But that basically, here's all the electrical details, and now here's a great little insert here. If you had a variation, there's an authority for variation of contract, and so you can get a bit of an idea of what is actually involved in that. Authority for variation that carries on for quite a few. Here's council stuff. Okay, so we're talking about crossovers and all that sort of stuff, which is, you know, not too bad. It's the type of stuff that most builders and tradies just roll their eyes at. But behind the scenes, this is where the builder earns his money, because he has to make sure that this is well and truly covered. So that's the reason that I included this as a reference for you to actually have a look at. It's okay, we're just having another. As soon as I'm home, I think I'll get every notification known to man. All right, and then we end up with the MBA Domestic Building Contract House, okay, which I have already opened, and I'm just going to click it there. And so here we have it. This is a little bit old, so you can see it's like 2015, and in all probability, the actual contracts for the MBA are a bit more flashier than what this is, but nevertheless, this has got some key criteria in here that we're actually looking at, and you can just see through here, license, and then we get to here. Now, I should actually go to the page where this is. All right, so I'm just going to go back into assessment 2, scroll down. All right, and there's the actual contract part through there. And also, if you were to look at here, there's some information. All right, so let's have a look. Maybe I'll put it here. The worst thing of making up contracts. All right, so design and construct contract. Now, these dot points are the assessment for you. This is what I want you to actually fill out. And so I'm just going to show you this one here, and we'll just go, I'll open up the copy, the actual copy from the Learn site. Just save, click over here, rightio. So, I mean, obviously, whoever did this was tied in with Port Power. Let's have a look. You've got some the building and the contractors. So this is basically, these guys have been around for a long time, 1884. So ethical standards, okay, so any member of the MBA has to comply to that. You are the builder, the builder and the contract. And then these are some really common sense things. If you're in an agreement with a builder, the first thing you need to do is actually find out whether he's got a license. I lost count over the 50 years that I held my license that people wanted to use my license to build with. And continually I would say no, because number one, you get black marks against your license, you don't get any work. Are you clear on any conditions stated on the license? And these are quite critical. And so my license wasn't a full G general builder's license. It was actually a site supervisor and carpenter, and basically unlimited carpentry and joinery was the actual license classification back in the day. Okay, so it tells you about the actual contract, and but it says this contract is made available to all members of the building and construction industry. So in other words, you may have this contract, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a member of the Master Builders Association. All right, let's have a look through here. Very clear, neat, tidy. Okay, agreement made, first of all, date, okay, phone number, email address, the name which the builder carries on can be some fictitious builder's name, builder's license, okay, you can again make that up. This is not going anywhere else except TAFE. Where the actual site is, okay, put in the relevant information. Also put in who did the drawings, what number of sheets, what date, and there's also that document that I showed you with all those finishes. You can actually put that in there as well. There's also a little bit of a footing construction report. You can refer to that out of those plans. All right, down the bottom, we finally got the building and the owner agree, and the owner will pay the builder, and you need to actually write that out in, so if it's $1,427,054, that's what you need to write in verbal terms, not in numeric terms. All right, also including GST, so you need to make sure you've allowed that. Okay, the sum of will be advanced on mortgage by or as follows. Now you need to check the AS4000 for these clauses. All of these have to comply with the AS4000. What's the other thing we need to do? Any representation, undertaking, assertion by the builder about the work or any other aspect of the contract that the owners relied on in deciding to enter into this contract, or any other reason is contained and accurately reflected in the contract and the contract documents. Can you understand why one of the empowerments you've got this administration work and you've got the tradie and he's looking up in the sky? He's going, oh, really? Do I have to do that? All right, so owner, builder, you can fill that out fictitiously. And then over here, we need to know anything that's red is what I want you to actually do some searching for me. What's a special meaning clause? Okay, date for practical completion. Owner's initials, builder's initials. Okay, need to go through every one. Check all these through here. Again, this is the sort of detail that goes through right through in every job. Obeying council and other laws. Again, your initial variations. Okay, what can you say about variations there? All right, possession of the site. Now down here, insurance. Please have a good look at that. All right, and this is really a key area. So find out for me about insurance. Now, if you have something that you want to input into this document, then because I've highlighted this in red, maybe you could insert your answers with putting, you know, A, okay, in italics, and maybe doing it in a dark blue or something like that. Don't do it in black or red because I'll miss it. Okay, so it's important to actually come through, and you got 11 pages to complete. All right, and you've got those about 7 or 8 different things amongst those pages to actually complete, and this is then bundled up. And so when we go back to our assessment, we'll actually show you that as well. Okay, so let's minimize this, and you can see the agreement, design and construct contract for learn. Pretty amazing, all the work involved in this, but this is crucial. So there it is there. Key details: builder, proprietary, agreement date, public liability, any special clause, commencement date of works, contract sum, practical completion, which would be a date, and provisional percentage allowances. Okay, and so you will find that information first of all out of the AS4000, and if you do have an answer like that, put a reference alongside of that clause, such and such, AS4000. All right, so that we know where you got that from. All right, let's go back one. So we got an invitation. Okay, we've actually had a look at the MBA. Now, the design and construct contract is slightly different, not difficult. Again, has the same see red highlighted fields. So I'm going to plop it open, and we'll just have a quick run through on that one as well. Okay, so you need to put your the proprietor's name. You're the builder. Okay, you're the person who's going to be actually doing that. So put in your building name. All right, agreement. Okay, between, insert builder's name. Okay, insert address. Got to know where the builder lives in case you've got to chase him for money. And these are all the details through here. So it is a good practice to sit down for an hour or two and just read your way through this and see the legal implications of each of the sentences and clauses. The words like shall, okay, shall grant to the builder reasonable uninterrupted access to the site. Okay, where any case where a proprietor instructs that the quality of any work, materials or goods supplied by the builder is not in accordance with this agreement. So this is the type of stuff, if you've got some bang 'em up building company guy and he says, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that, and they'll go, that's great, and then find out that they're not actually doing the right job. Variations, okay, have a look what it says about variations. All right, public liability insurance. Do some research on that, okay, it's quite important. Default by a builder, default by a proprietor, okay, so there's just as much implications upon the actual owner as it is for the builder. Extension of time, delays, extension of times, a bucket down with rain, for example. Practical completion, what do you do? Okay, a little bit further down here. If I got you to do every clause, it would take you about 1.5 years to do this. Special clause, okay, find what that is about. And then finally, at the bottom of your contract, through here, if there is any clauses, you need to sign this by the builder and by the proprietor, and that's key. Now, Schedule A is basically want some information for the proprietor. Don't want you to do all of these because I've got these to do. Commencement date, you can put that into there. Contract sum, date for practical completion, and also you can see I've left this in just to see if that's current. The extent of the public liability insurance shall be 20 million, or do we need to allow more? Okay, any others that you find that you wish to include will obviously be looked on favorably. Okay, but this is the bare minimum. Finally, Schedule B, pursuant to the clause 2C of the condition of contract, you are requested to construct the works in accordance with the agreement and the final design of the lump sum, and in here you insert your figure, fictitious as it may be, dated, and signature. All right, and that is it. So both of these, one's 11 pages, one's 12 pages, and obviously that's not the whole deal. Your other working figures behind that, anything that you include, so that we can actually follow that through. The reality is that evaluating tender documents is a very intensive and vigorous process. And the main thing is that to make sure that when we actually put all this stuff together, it goes together in a zipped folder into the upload. And so that'll be the next thing. So you're going to minimize that and go back to the assessment uploads. and I'm just waiting for a couple of more things for that. So for example, here it is here, complete your contract, ensure that the dot points are actually completed, and then there's 34 participants. Okay, you have 2 attempts allowed. All right, generally something like this is so open-ended that it's really critical that we know exactly what we're doing. So there we are. So that was the closest that I could get to actually making that you had a couple of real contracts that you could actually fill out. And so, and also by saying to you, okay, each of these points actually need to apply to both design and construct and the domestic MBA domestic plain English contract. All right, when this is opened, at the moment this is still closed. The normal formalities apply, where I won't see this because I'm the actual, I run the course, but it doesn't actually show me as a student. But if I was to turn myself into a student for a while, and always good fun this, okay, switch role to student, okay, says it's hidden, so it won't allow me to see it, but basically, so I can't show it to you anyhow. That's all right. Go to my normal role. All right. So I think overall that the unit will be informative and will more than adequately cover the requirements of the AS code. And so then when we go through, now this here, you've got around about 7 weeks. And some of you have already started, because I left this open. And the reason I did that was I wanted a few students to actually have a go at it and run through and just find out whether they could follow it or not. And it just so happens that one of the other students is in estimating, is actually doing the unit, and the feedback so far has been that it's relatively easy to follow. So if we can get that and see how we go. So, all right, around this time here, okay, is when it's, if you haven't done anything at all, get stuck right into it and just basically 7 weeks. So if we were going to say, in regards to information that we've got, online resources, intro to look at, the learning manual, and I guess I've already showed you this. This is the learning manual that we used to teach. There's some really good information in here as well, but you've got about six sections. So you should easily be able to get this done in 6 weeks. Okay, that's what I'm sort of angling on, and then that then gives me time to actually mark it, because obviously it is going to be manual marking because of the nature of the assessment. So going right back to here. All right, so this one here, in the meantime, worth your while locating and downloading the AS4000 and actually having a look at some of those. Make sure that your documentation is in one piece, and in the ASI, which is here. All right, once this part here, once you've drafted the email, attach your documentation as a zip file. Take your folder structure you created in Assessment 5 Part 1, include the current project you're tendering for, that being either the residential or commercial, or you have to do both anyhow. Submit the ASI document and zip folder via the submission portal by the due date. All right, so there it is there. Okay, so not much more for me to say than I hope you enjoy the actual unit, and the number one thing for this is actually the learning process. If we get the learning process right, if you're ever in that predicament where you are submitting tenders and receiving tenders and things like this, you don't die of a heart attack when you see your first one. And the reason this is in is because so many builders, it's almost blatantly obvious that a lot of those circumstances have been caused by incorrect tendering. And the other one, fixed price. I don't think anybody at this current situation would be entering into a fixed price contract unless it was loaded like a wounded buffalo to make sure that you had enough money. All right. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing your work, and obviously do part 1 before we do part 2, and make sure that you go through all the assessment material is in the PowerPoints, not Google. Okay. Don't be lazy. Go into the actual PowerPoints and check that through, because all of the expected answers are in there. All right. Thank you very much.